An Australian family suddenly fled their farm in fear for their lives. They left behind their cell phones, all of their belongings, and disappeared without any notice. The strange thing is, no one knows why they fled in such a hurry. Not even the family themselves. This case made national news in Australia at the time, as their friends and family couldn't figure out why the entire family disappeared out of nowhere. This story got even more baffling when each family member began turning up, one by one, hundreds of miles apart, in catatonic and psychotic states of mind. Please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and remember to turn on notifications so we can continue growing this channel together. And now, sit back and enjoy the bizarre story of the Tromp family road trip.
Mark and Jacoba Tromp ran a successful farm and earth-moving business in Melbourne, Australia with the help of their 3 adult children, Riana, Mitchell, and Ella. One day, on August 29, 2016, the entire family of 5 piled into their family car and fled the farm with no warning. The only person who brought a phone with them was Mitchell. However, 18 miles down the road, his parents made him throw his phone out the window. They were now completely technology-free. It wasn't long before their family and friends became aware of their mysterious disappearance and called police. When police searched their home, they discovered that the inside of the home was in complete disarray. Financial records were spread out across the home, which indicated to police that they may have taken some financial documents with them. They left behind their cell phones, passports, and credit cards. No one knew where they went or why. The Tromps drove straight to Bathurst, which was about 500 miles away from their home. Seemingly inexplicably, this is where they left Mitchell, and the rest of the family continued on. They headed east to the Jenolan Caves, which is a popular tourist destination. Once they arrived at the caves, Riana and Ella decided to separate from their parents. They went nearby and stole a car, then drove south to the town of Goulburn. It was there that they reported their parents missing. However, this wasn't where their story would end. Instead, Riana and Ella also decided to separate from each other. At a gas station, Ella said she wanted to go back home and feed her horses. She became the first member of the Tromp family to be found when she showed up at the family home and was greeted by police. By now, the local news had been made aware of the mysterious road trip, and Australians were left perplexed by this strange vacation. Mitchell, who took a series of trains in order to make it back home, arrived the following morning. Ella and Mitchell were in relatively normal mental states, not really understanding the random trip, but otherwise unaffected. The same couldn't be said for Riana. An hour outside of Goulburn, a man was driving his utility vehicle to a doctor's appointment when he felt something kick the back of his seat. When he looked in the back seat, he was shocked to find Riana lying there. The driver pulled over and asked if she was okay, but something was clearly wrong with her. She was in a catatonic state and seemed to be very unaware of her surroundings. She answered his question with no, and he called for help. She was then transported to a psychiatric facility for care and reportedly didn't know her name or where she was. There was now an interstate search for the remaining 2 Tromps, Mark and Jacoba. By this point, they had driven roughly 370 miles to the Victorian town of Wangaratta, where they became separated from one another as well. Jacoba headed north, by means which are still unknown, and ended up nearly 220 miles away in the town of Yass. She was finally discovered here, wandering around in an agitated state. She was taken to the hospital to be psychiatrically evaluated and later transferred to a hospital in Goulburn where Riana was also being treated. Now there was just one Tromp left to be found. Around 10 p.m. in Wangaratta, a young couple was driving around playing Pokemon Go when a car sped up behind them and began tailgating them dangerously close. The car was so close to the rear bumper that they could barely see his headlights. The couple pulled the car over, but the car behind them pulled over as well. The couple then saw Mark Tromp exit the car and begin running toward them, before suddenly stopping for a moment, staring at them, and then running off into a park. Police also began investigating a series of break-ins in this area around the same time, but there has never been any evidence to suggest whether or not this was related. Nearly a week after the mysterious trip, Ella and Mitchell did a news interview where they stated that their dad doesn't want to be found because he's afraid people are after him, but they desperately pleaded for him to return home. Finally, Mark was found beside a road near the Wangaratta airport. The Tromps had been successfully rounded up. After being questioned and given a mental evaluation, he was released and handed over to his brother, who was a police officer. While they drove away, Mark was photographed giving the middle finger to spectators, though he later apologized for this. After an investigation into the incidents surrounding the Tromp family's mysterious trip, police found no threats to the family. There was no evidence that the family belonged to a religious or spiritual cult, and there was no evidence of drug use. They also had no diagnosed history of mental health disorders. Some people think maybe this sudden episode might have been brought on by some of the chemicals they used on their farm, or that their water supply could have been contaminated with toxins. Another theory that was brought up by a neighbor of the Tromps is that stress could have set this off, as they were currently in the process of renovating their family home and were running into a few problems along the way. The official theory from police is that the family possibly suffered from collective delusions known as Folie à deux, which means madness of two in French. This is a type of shared psychosis in which one person begins to show signs of delusions, and the delusions are then passed to one or more people in their tight-knit group. Ella and Mitchell have said that they still don't understand why this happened and have never seen this before, but all they know is they were suddenly in fear for their lives and felt the need to flee.
By all accounts, the Tromp family has reportedly returned to a normal life since then, and they're successfully running their family farm once again. Still, it's hard not to imagine that the memory of this bizarre incident probably still lingers in some part of their brain, and they likely still have a fear that this episode might return again someday. Thanks for tuning in to another video. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons and turn on notifications, or else you might also find yourself on the run for no reason. It's farewell for now, and I'll see you in the next video.